I'm officially allowed to begin. Hello there. I'm Vadim. I'm gonna tell you a story about web platform. Who's here developing anything for the web, or one way or another? Okay, most of you. That's good to know. And as you can see on the slides, I try to stylize the name of my talk to look like a CSS. That's because I'm into web platform, I'm into browsers, web standards, and everything like that. So I work as a technical writer at MDN. Basically, I just started on this job. I used to be a front-end engineer. I write docs for the web platform. That's what I do daily, and that's why web platform is very dear to me. And I'm trying to make sure that it's up to date, it's understandable, that you can always find good information. MDN is a product of Mozilla company, but it's that created the Firefox browser that you probably know about. But it's developed and there are many parties involved in contributing to MDN, just regular developers like you or big companies as well. And I'm also a Google developer expert. That's one of the reasons why I'm here, but also because someone got sick and I'm replacing a speaker that announced previously. But I had this talk and they gave me 20 minutes, so let's go. I'm going to start with this bold statement that web platform belongs to no one. And I'm not sure about you, but it sounds kind of sad, right? You know, when we think about Android, for example, we know who this platform belongs to Google, right? Am I right? Yes. The same goes to iOS, macOS. It belongs to Apple. And there are many other platforms, and not so many of them belong to no one, to be honest. And the web is one of the few examples. And I would say it's a good thing. One of the reasons being that I don't see this pop up often these days. Not sure if you remember this one. I couldn't find it in high resolution because it's that old. But we used to see things like that all the time. Install Flash Player to fully enjoy your experience. Install Silverlight. Install Java or something like this. These days, it's 100% web, like 99.9% web. There are some nasty cases. But I think that's one of the main reasons why it's a good thing that web platform belongs to no one. But when something belongs to no one, we're in this kind of uncomfortable situation. What if something goes wrong? What if something is not documented? What if we desperately need something to be implemented into the web platform? Where do we go? How do we do that? And like most of all, important to us developers, and where do we find sources of information? Because platform means that it's like SDK sort of. It's a platform that you can develop for, so you need some information how to do that. And where do you find this information? Well, main source of truth for a web platform are specs. Like for example, I took a screenshot just this morning, and HTML living standard, yes, this is how it looks these days. HTML spec, main language of the web, is a living standard. It developed every day on GitHub in issues. People from WG developed this spec. Developers file issues. Browser vendors come with some ideas for new HTML elements, new APIs. And yeah, this is the source of truth. So it's developed by a group of people. It's open source. Just like the whole web, it also belongs to no one. But there are some people who are taking care of this. The same goes for CSS. CSS is a spec developed by W3C and CSS community group in particular. And they also develop it in the open. It's on GitHub. You can also file issues. You can also communicate with spec writers. So it's open. It's available to everyone, not just to read it and use it for free, but also to contribute to this part of the web platform. The same goes to JavaScript. It's developed as part of ECMAScript specification, and it's a spec of the language. It's called ECMAScript, but it's implemented as JavaScript in browsers. It's more of a like brand name, I would say. You often see like ES instead of GS, meaning ECMAScript, not JavaScript. So ES is a spec, JavaScript is an implementation. Also, developed in the open by browser vendors, by regular developers just like you and me. People often offer new improvements to the spec, and they discuss it in the open on GitHub in an organization called TC39. So you can also find all information. So, web platform belongs to no one, but a lot of people taking care of it, and a lot of companies, a lot of just regular developers. And not sure about you, but my main source information, I gave this talk for the first time this year in the very beginning when I was working just a front-end engineer, and I said the same words as I'm saying right now. My main source of information for the web platform is MDN. And who uses something else? Like, if you need to understand better some JavaScript method or CSS property or HTML tag, where do you go apart from MDN? W3 School. What else? Stack Overflow. Yeah. It's a bit different format, but they all often link back to MDN when they try to prove the point. So yeah, it became de facto standard documentation for the web platform. I can say we now because I work there these days, and we don't document browser-specific things, things that are not spec'd, things that are not part of the web platform, that are just specifics of browser implementation. But we document everything else. So yeah, you can rely on that. But it's not enough. Like we document everything that belongs to the web platform. Like these are HTML tags, JavaScript methods, and CSS properties, and there are so many other things out there. But what about compatibility? Like if it's a certain feature is available on the web, that's nice. But can I use it these days or not? Can I actually safely implement it on my project? And to understand it better, I forgot to mention that we recently launched a blog for MDN where we publish interesting articles. And if you'd like to know more about how we work, or as MDN, as a people behind a web platform, or something new about the web platform, like tips and tricks on code editors and everything, you can go ahead and read our blog as well. But yeah, that's not enough. That's why browsers often publish not just release notes. We added this icon to our toolbar. That's why browsers often publish release notes, very detailed release notes, talking about specific changes they have. So comparing specs or MDN information with browser release notes, we can kind of get the idea whether we can use it. Because, okay, this new CSS attribute, media attribute for source element is available in the spec, but is it available in browsers? So we have to follow Firefox release notes. We have to follow Chrome release notes. We have to follow WebKit release notes to understand whether these media attribute and source element for video elements are available in certain browsers. So we have to constantly keep following these sources of information to understand whether we can use something or not. You might say, yeah, browsers these days taking part in interop, and we're not sure if you heard about this one, but browsers at some point decided to start a competition, sort of in a way. And in the very beginning of the year, at the very end of the year, they agree on the list of features that are going to work next year all together: WebKit, Firefox, and Chromium browsers. And by the end of the year, they compare scores. Like if we're compatible enough, if we succeeded in our plans for we planned in the previous year. So this is an interesting competition between browsers. It's called interop because it's interoperability and how browsers support a certain feature altogether across the board. So this is very interesting. So you might say, with this kind of competition, if something is available in one browser, it almost immediately available in other browsers because they talk to each other, they agree on things, and they implement things more or less at the same time. But it's not always the case, and I think most of you use can I use for this kind of stuff. And do you know how can I use work? Where the data is coming from? Like anyone? Have you ever contributed to can I use? Basically, it's a huge database started by a person, by individual, many years ago. And at some point, they also merged a database, official database, I would say, like the most complete database of features and browser support, supported by Mozilla. It's called browser compat data. It's a repository full of hundreds of files where all the specifics of certain features and a level of support and status of those features, like whether they are experimental or stable or obsolete or not supported or supported in certain browsers. So it's a reliable source of information, but it's a bit it goes feature by feature. It's not always easy to understand whether you should use something or not, but it's a reliable source of information. I hope everyone uses can I use, right? One way or another. Because if you're not, like, if you remember one thing from this talk, please use can I use, because it's the best way to understand whether something is supported or not. So yeah, can I use also belongs to no one, I would say. It doesn't belong to any company, but it's developed by many browser vendors. It's developed by Mozilla specifically, by Microsoft, by Apple, by Google, by Apple. Yeah, many other companies contribute to this one. And I contributed to Can I Use database multiple occasions, and I do this as a part of my job these days. So yeah, and with Can I Use and with web platform features, it always comes to this funny situation. Have you seen this comic called Yes But? So basically, it's like something very good, but then reality. Yes, there's a trash can, but we always put our chewing gum to weird places. Yes, we go to the gym, but we go to the gym by elevator because it's hard, you know. The same for coffee. It's a beautiful picture out there, and we put a plastic lid on top. So it's always like disappointment in the end. And with web platform, I created this one. We can access USB devices on the web, but then we look at Can I Use, and not in Safari, in Firefox. They're not even considering adding USB to the web platform because they think it's dangerous to the security. And it's always like that with certain features. We hear some great news from web.dev or from Google developers, like we implemented something in Chrome, but whether we can use it reliably, yeah, we go to Can I Use and we see this kind of stuff. And it's not always accurate as well. There are some, these days I go through Can I Use data files, I go through browser compat data files, and I always find some mistakes. So it's not reliable enough to be like 100% correct. It's not always correct, I would say. So there's always something to improve in these data files. So, you know, going back to my original statement, web platform belongs to no one, and that's why it's less reliable. It's a bit shaky. It's a bit, yeah, like that. Yes, but happens all the time. And I think there are some ways to improve that. And have you heard about DX? Like you probably know about UX, user experience. I'm getting there. Yeah. Developer experience. So DX, it means like how easy it's for you is to write your code. How easy it is to develop certain interfaces for the web or things like that. So your experience matters as well. Like UX is more important than DX, I would say, but yeah, you can talk to me after the talk if you disagree. So yeah, WebDX is a community group under W3C. It's a bunch of people trying to improve developer experience working with the platform. So you see, again, it belongs to no one, but there are some people trying to improve it for some reason. That's nice, actually. So WebDX, it's a community group, developed a number of ideas, and one of them being title of this talk, Baseline. But this one is not baseline. Have you seen this one in your life ever, many years ago? Back in my days, we used to put this in footer of our websites. It would mean that our markup is 100% valid, meaning that all tags are closed, all tags are nested properly, and yeah, we were super proud about our code. And this button would link to HTML validator with the result that our website is 100% valid. It didn't mean a lot to end users, but it meant a lot to us as developers. So we used to brag about this. But these days, there's a new thing people will start putting on the websites. Probably not. People will start putting this in their articles, I would say, in their documentation, because this is a new logo of baseline. Baseline is an idea developed inside of this WebDX community group to change the way we look at web compatibility, change the way we look at the web platform features support and readiness. Because as I showed you, it's not always clear where to find this information. This information is not always reliable, and it's hard to tell whether something is not just supported in one browser, not just spec'd or documented, but actually reliably supported in all major browsers and reliable and safe to use in your project. And as you can see, it's a check mark. This is a cross. It means good. It means not so good, like a traffic light, you know. And it's not super contrasting and cool, but yeah, it's more or less understandable what's going on. So remember those check marks and crosses. You'll start seeing them more. This one reminds me of this, but yeah, maybe I'm hungry. Anyway, right now on MDN, you can find a number of these widgets or informers, or however you call it, green ones only at the moment. And for example, for grid property, which is a shorthand, you can see this green check mark in the phrase baseline widely supported. So if you ever wondered, if you've seen this before, if you ever wondered what baseline means, baseline is a value in Flexbox, right? Not only that, but also the name of the whole initiative, the whole idea that we have a baseline that's stable and reliable. And to mark certain properties, methods, and HTML elements and everything basically on the web platform as baseline, as something reliable and stable, they came up with this logo, they came up with this idea. So right now, at certain articles on MDN, you can find these ones. It was initial rollback. It was announced in May this year at Google I/O, but also at the same time at MDN blog, at the same time at Canary's blog, I believe. So it's a cross. It's an initiative that involves many, almost every organization, every group of people I mentioned before. So Canary's, WebDX, W3C, Mozilla, Apple, Google, like everyone taking part in this project. And it's a bit under wraps. It's a bit in early stages these days, but you can already see it on MDN. Like grid, flex, border image, for example. These are reliable enough and supported in all major browsers to be marked as baseline. And this is how it's supposed to look when something is supported. Green, cool. And all browsers on the right side, they are highlighted with green, and also with additional check marks just to stress the point. And below, if you see something like this, it's not right now implemented on MDN. I mean, it's implemented, but it's not visible yet. If you see something like this, cross, danger, not widely supported, it means, yeah, it's not ready for prime time. You can start reading about this, you can start experimenting with this thing, but it's probably not going to be a reliable thing to use in your production. And if you open this thing, you'll see some additional things. You can see additional information and some extra links. So yeah, It's not just an informer. It's full of information if you'd like to go further. And the idea behind baseline, initial idea. Remember this note. It's initial idea behind baseline that it is something that's supported in current and previous version of all major browsers: Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Safari. Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Safari are not the only browsers available on the web. Of course, there are like Opera, Vivaldi, Brave, some others, but they tend to use browser engines already listed in this core browsers list. You might ask why Chrome and Edge on this list, both of them, because Edge does a lot to their engine, and it's quite different from what Chrome does. Edge does some things to their engine. It's quite different from what Chrome does. Yep, and so it deserves its place in this list. It means that once something is supported, then it could be safely used, and it could be called baseline. Have you heard about browser list before? Have you used it? Next time I'm here, I expect everyone with their hands raised because it's a very, very important project. You might even have it in your project. Basically, it's the way to tell in your package JSON that something is supported. What's your baseline for your project? These browser list is not related to baseline in any way, but they use similar idea behind them. So you can put in your browser list something like last 2 major versions and not that. By the way, not that is very important because last major version of Internet Explorer is 11, and you don't want to support IE 11 in your code. Seriously, you don't. So make sure if you use browser list, you put not that at the end. It also looks funny, like, and not that. Anyway, make sure you read about browser list. It's a very, very cool tool, and it will make sure that your bundle, JS bundle or CSS files, they are much smaller because you're not shipping extra code not needed for your browser list. So yeah, package JSON, browser list and package JSON does a similar thing, but you can modify the level of support. You don't have to use the last 2 major versions, but it's very, very similar to what baseline offers. Where it's all developed, I mentioned WebDX community group, but there's also web features repository where they actually work. So you can go to web platform DX web features on GitHub, and you can find also npm package called web features. So basically, you can npm put this package in your dependencies and use it during build time and rely on this information, whether something is baseline, if something is reliable or not. So it might become part of your build process, just like browser list at some point, but not yet. I wouldn't encourage you to do this right now because it's still in early stages. So yeah, and if we open this web features index.json that it's shipped with this package, we will see a lot of information. It's basically a huge JSON with information like link to the spec, level of support, and what browser and what browser version it's supported in, and so all that kind of stuff. But if we boil it down to something readable, it means that right now in web features package, we have in baseline display flex, display grid, display subgrid as well. So subgrid is, according to baseline, is already supported in the current version and previous version of the browsers. Border image, add layer, cascading layers, structured clone in JS, and viewport units. I'm gonna pause on viewport units for a moment because it's very important to understand why these are how baseline works. Basically, this is the config file for viewport units, and they split into 2 separate features. There are old viewport units, like window viewport height, viewport width, min, max, variations of them. And there are new ones. There are like dynamic viewport, large viewport, small viewport, etc. It means that these are new and these are old. It means that it's important for web features and for baseline as well to separate those. And they come in groups. And we can call old viewport units part of baseline at one point, and at later point, we can call the other group as part of baseline. So web features repository not just lists all the features in the world, they also try to group them together based on their functionality and based on browser support. So this is how it's different for browser compat data. This is how it's different from Can I Use, for example. They list all the features. Web features or baseline project, they try to group them so you'll better understand what features you're ready to use or not, or maybe use it again in the future in a build process. There's one controversial feature called at layer or cascade layers, and I encourage you to read this article criticizing baseline project in its initial state. So if you're interested, it's very good article, and I'd like to focus on your attention on this because it's not everything. Not everything is perfect, and there are ways to improve baseline idea, and there are actually some plans to improve it, but more on that later. So if we go to Can I Use, it's not. Oops, sorry. I mentioned in the very beginning that web platform belongs to no one, and it's not always clear how to make those decisions. And based on this article, criticizing baseline using at layer as an example, it's not browser baseline won't tell you what is good or what's best for your specific project, for your specific users, because you might have some different users. You might have different needs for your project. So it's always up to you to judge whether baseline is good for you or not. It's been like that all the time, and baseline is not going to change it. But it might help you to understand the very foundation, the very baseline of the web platform, so you can make your own decisions better based on that. And like I mentioned, something's going to change next week. Some big changes to the baseline project is going to be announced by parties involved in this project. We're going to change the definition of baseline a bit. Like I mentioned, like baseline, something belongs to baseline if it's supported in 2 major versions of stable browsers, like that. It's going to be, the definition of baseline is going to be changed a bit, and it's going to be improved. There's going to be like 2 baselines, low and high. It's not going to be based on the version of browser, but the time it's been on the market. So WebDX community group and all the parties involved collected a lot of feedback from developers starting from May this year, and they decided to improve the baseline. So the basic idea remains the same, but it's going to be easier to use and easier to understand for regular developers. So this is what baseline is, and this is how it's going to be improved. And going back to initial idea, I think web platform belongs to no one is a bit sad thing to acknowledge, but I think this makes it better. Web platform belongs to all of us, and we all can contribute because everything's in open source, everything on GitHub. You can go there and propose your changes. You can fix errors. You can propose some new features to the web platform, improve documentation. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing on MDN. And I think, I'm not sure about you, but it leaves me keeps me positive and happy about web platform, and I'm looking excited to the future of it. I think baseline is going to improve it and make developer experience of us developers better. If you'd like to, we don't have time for questions. I believe there's going to be lunch very soon, or it's happening right now. But you can find me on my website, There are some contacts and some articles you can read. And feel free to get in touch with me. You can find my contacts in the footer of the website. And that was it. Thank you for listening.